Reginia had mastered 3 languages, 4 social media platforms, and the art of making old men believe she was worth their fortune. But when her mother sold her to a man with 6 wives, she realized no amount of diamonds could polish a cage. Find out if she escapes her gilded cage in this fascinating tale. Reginia has never been an ordinary girl. From the time she could work, her mother, Madam Grace, made sure she was always in front of cameras. She became the star of Lagos Rich Kids, a reality TV show about the lives of wealthy children. Except, Reginia wasn't really rich. Her mother was a producer, not a billionaire, but she knew how to make money and she knew how to train her daughter to attract it. Men will give you the world if you know how to ask, she would say. At 16, Reginia had already attended private parties filled with billionaires and politicians. Rich men twice, even 3 times her age, showered her with expensive gifts, Rolex watches, designer bags, even wads of cash. Madam Grace controlled it all. But now, she had found the final man. "You will marry Chief Bello," she announced over breakfast. Reginia froze. She knew Chief Bello. Everyone did. He was one of Nigeria's richest men, the owner of several TV stations, oil companies, and hotels. He was also old enough to be her grandfather. And worst of all, he already had 6 wives. Reginia clenched her fists. "I don't want to marry him." Madam Grace took a sip of her ginger tea. "You don't have a choice." For the first time, Reginia realized the truth. She had never been her daughter. She had always been her investment. Reginia felt like a prisoner in diamonds. The wedding was the biggest event in Lagos. It was held at Eco Hotel and Suites, attended by politicians, celebrities, and socialites. She walked down the aisle in a Verawang gown worth millions, but all she wanted to do was run away. At the altar, Chief Bello stood waiting for her, his white tailored suit bursting at the seams from years of luxury, his fingers covered in gold rings. He smirked, "Even more beautiful than I expected." Reginia's stomach turned. The priest spoke, but she barely heard him. "I do," Chief Bello said. The priest turned to her. "Do you, Reginia, take this man?" She looked at her mother. Madam Grace gave her a sharp glare. Reginia swallowed her fear. "I do." Chief Bello lifted her veil and kissed her roughly. The guests cheered. Reginia felt nothing but fear. Then she spotted Daniel, her childhood best friend. He was standing at the back, his fists clenched. Her heart raced. Had he come to save her? The honeymoon suite was beautiful, but Reginia felt like a trapped animal. Chief Bello sat on the massive bed, watching her. "Come here, my wife," he said. She took a step back. "Can we take things slow?" He laughed. "Your mother trained you better than this." Reginia's blood ran cold. He knew about the other men. "All those men before me," he continued. "Your mother made sure you learned how to please powerful men, and now you belong to me." Tears burned in her eyes. Just then, a knock came at the door. "Sir, an urgent call," a voice said. Chief Bello sighed. "Wait for me here." As soon as he left, Reginia grabbed her phone and texted Daniel. "Help me." Daniel called instantly. "Where are you?" "Eco Hotel." "I can't do this." "I'll come for you," he promised. But before she could breathe, the door burst open. Madam Grace stood there, her eyes full of anger. She grabbed Reginia's phone and read the messages. Reginia's stomach twisted. "You think you can run?" her mother hissed. "Chief Bello paid a fortune for you." Tears filled Reginia's eyes. "I'm not a product." Madam Grace smiled coldly. "Oh, my dear," she whispered. "You always were." The next morning, Reginia met the other wives. They were stunning, rich, and dangerous. "You think you're special, don't you?" Wife number 3, Shade, murmured as she passed. Wife number 4, Mariam, smirked. "Enjoy your honeymoon while it lasts." Reginia frowned. What does that mean? Mariam leaned in. There are 7 wives, but only one favorite. The rest disappear. Reginia felt a chill down her spine. She wasn't just a bride. She was now in a deadly competition. Reginia knew she had to find the truth. She searched Chibelo's study while he was away. She found old newspaper articles. Wife number 2, missing. Wife number 5, vanished. Her hands shook. Then she found a hidden file full of photos of his wives. At the bottom of the pile was a picture of her. She barely had time to react when the door creaked open. She turned, only to see Mariam standing there, smirking. "I told you, dear," she said. "You were just another obstacle." Reginia knew she had to leave now. She stuffed money into a bag and tiptoed towards the front door. But just as she reached it, a voice spoke behind her. "Going somewhere?" She turned and saw Mariam and Shade blocking the exit. Shade held a knife, smiling. "You thought this was about love?" she whispered. "This is war." Reginia's heart pounded as the lights went out. Someone screamed, followed by the sound of glass shattering. She felt a hand grab her wrist. "Run!" a voice whispered. It was Daniel. Reginia didn't think twice. She let him pull her through the dark hallways, her bare feet slamming against the cold marble floor. Behind them, Shade yelled in pain. "What happened to her?" Reginia said, breathless. Daniel held up a small knife. "She tried to stab you. I stopped her." Reginia swallowed hard. "He saved my life." They reached the side exit, but before they could escape, Chief Bello's guards stormed in. "Stop them!" one shouted. Daniel pushed Reginia behind him. "Get ready to fight," he whispered. Reginia thought her mother would be worried about her safety. She was wrong. The moment they were caught, Madame Grace arrived, dressed in silk and diamonds, looking completely unbothered. She crossed her arms and gave Reginia a disappointed look. "I trained you better than this," she said. Reginia's stomach turned. "You were going to let them kill me?" Madame Grace sighed. "You don't understand. Bello is the most powerful man in Lagos. If you become his favorite wife, you will control everything." She felt sick. "I don't want to control anything. I want to be free." Madame Grace smiled coldly. "Then you're useless to me." Daniel grabbed Reginia's hand. "We have to leave. Now." But Bello's guards were closing in. She had one choice left. To fight or to die. Daniel moved fast, knocking out the first guard. Reginia dodged a grab and kicked another in the stomach. A guard grabbed her wrist. She bit his hand hard, forcing him to let go. Daniel pulled her through a back door and into the garage. There was a black SUV waiting. "Get in!" he shouted. Just as they sped away, Reginia saw Madame Grace watching from the balcony, her expression unreadable. Reginia realized something. Her mother didn't care if she lived or died. Daniel drove for hours until they reached a hidden apartment in Lekki. Reginia collapsed onto the couch, shaking. "What now?" she whispered. Daniel hesitated. Then he said, "Bello has to pay for what he's done." Reginia frowned. "How?" Daniel pulled a flash drive. "I have evidence. Videos of what happened to his missing wives." Her blood ran cold. "You mean?" Daniel nodded. "Bello is a murderer." He plugged the flash drive into his laptop. On the screen, videos played. Recordings from hidden cameras in Bello's mansion. Reginia covered her mouth in horror. The missing wives were still alive, locked in a secret basement beneath Bello's estate. Mariam wasn't lying. Wives who lost their power simply disappeared. Reginia felt her stomach twist. "We have to get them out," she whispered. Daniel met her gaze. "Are you ready to fight?" They come up with a plan. Step 1, get proof for the police. Step 2, sneak into Bello's mansion and free the wives. Step 3, destroy everything he owns. She felt fear creeping. If they got caught, Bello would kill them both. But she couldn't turn back now. She had a score to settle. Reginia returned to Bello's mansion as if nothing had happened. "I just needed some air," she lied. Bello nodded slowly, watching her carefully. His wife sat around the table, pretending everything was normal. But Reginia knew the truth now. Some of them wanted her dead. Some of them just wanted to survive. Tonight would change everything. At midnight, Reginia sneaked to the basement. With Daniel's help, she unlocked the hidden room. The missing wife stumbled out, weak but alive. Tears filled Reginia's eyes. "It's over," she whispered. "We're getting out." But as they reached the exit, Bello was waiting. Bello aimed a gun at Reginia. "You thought you could betray me?" Reginia stood her ground. "You don't own me." Behind him, Daniel moved quietly, holding a weapon. Reginia distracted Bello just long enough. Daniel struck him in the head, and he collapsed. For the first time, she was free. She turned on her mother next. She stormed into Madame Grace's apartment. "You sold me," she spat. Madame Grace sighed. "I gave you a life most girls would kill for." "No, you gave me a prison." She threw the flash drive onto the table. "This has evidence of everything. The police are on their way." Madame Grace's face turned pale. Reginia had won. The police raided Bello's mansion. The missing wives were rescued. Madame Grace and Bello were arrested for human trafficking, abuse, and fraud. For the first time in her life, Reginia felt safe. She was no longer someone's property. She was finally free. Months later, Reginia sat in a university lecture hall. She had spent years being controlled, but now she was building her own future. Daniel sat beside her. He smiled. "Are you ready for your real life to begin?" Reginia smiled back. Yes. She visited Madame Grace in prison. She stared at the woman who had once controlled her life. "You can't survive without me," Madame Grace whispered. Reginia smirked. "I already am." Then she walked away without looking back. Dear listeners, not all that glitters is gold. A life full of riches means nothing if you are not free. True happiness comes from making your own choices, not living in a golden cage. Be careful. Some people sell dreams, but they might be selling you instead. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe for more.